Maybe I'm just like my brother.
Well, my friends, as you saw us drive in, you probably recognized where we are. We are at Paisley Park, the home of the one and only Prince. Daze with Jordan the Lion and Amy begins now. So Amy and I signed up for the Ultimate Experience Tour, which was $160 per person. Now, believe it or not, even with that, you don't get to use your camera through the whole tour. They have an allotted section, but we do get to see a lot of extra rooms that other people on the tours won't get to see. So we're gonna talk about what happened to Prince, and then we're gonna take the tour and come back and tell you what we saw and what we think of it. So they actually have a pathway right here in front of the house that you can use to get better visuals of the house, since right now they're doing some blacktopping and you can't walk through the driveway. So Prince actually started building this in 1986. He was one of the most prolific songwriters, performers, musicians of his time. And he moved into here in 1987 and used this place as not only a home, but as a recording facility, party space for his friends. He put in a full-on soundstage to film movies. He did the Graffiti Bridge filming. 90% of it was done inside here. Pretty amazing place, and sadly, this is where Prince passed away at the age of 57 years old. Now, apparently what happened was in the early part of April of 2016, Prince was touring and had to cancel 2 of the dates on the tour because he, what they said, had influenza. And he eventually, a week later, made up that date in Atlanta. And then when he was flying home to Minneapolis, he, on his private plane, apparently became unresponsive, and they had to detour from coming to Minneapolis, stop in Illinois, and he went into the hospital there. They eventually brought him back. He was responsive at that point, and against doctors' wishes, he decided to leave the hospital, coming back home here to Paisley Park. Now, it's said that after he returned home, even though they made an announcement that he was suffering from influenza and that he was just dehydrated, he was seen out riding his bicycle in this area the next day. But he had been having problems for a little while and had apparently made an appointment with a physician whose specialty was pain management and addiction. And he was supposed to have that appointment the day that they found him, unfortunately, passed away in an elevator here. If you take the tour, when you start the tour in the front part of the house, which Amy and I just finished, when you go in, you'll see a stairway. And when they start taking you through the tour, once you get into the main living room and you round a corner, you'll see a door that looks like a kind of a trapezoidal form. That is actually where the elevator that he was found passed away in. And now, this was completely unseen coming from any of his fans, anyone, so he had no will. And his estate was basically, since he didn't have any kids and wasn't married at the time, they went to the next of kin, which meant his sister. He had a full-blood sister, but then he had 5 half-siblings. Now, what's crazy is that once it was announced that he didn't have a will, and it was announced that it would go into basically probate to decide how the family members would get it divided up, 500 to 800 people, I read in 2 different places, up to those amount of people had come out claiming to be a partial sibling to Prince. Now, Amy and I took the tour, and sadly we didn't see his urn. He had a very famous urn that he was put in that looked just like Paisley Park and had the love symbol #2, which was his famous name for a while, right on the front, and his ashes were inside, and they're no longer on display. And we asked someone inside what happened, and they said that the family members decided that they wanted to divide up the ashes, and so they did that apparently. Some of them are still here at Paisley Park, but they no longer display the urn any longer. So now you guys are gonna cut to the only part of the tour that they allow you to film. I filmed as much as I could. Prince is known on YouTube to copyright violate if you use any of his music in the background, so I am going to talk over what we recorded and you guys can see some of the cool things on display.
And it's really cool.
We went ahead and went for the Gusto, the $160 a person 3-hour tour, ultimate experience. That's right, a 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour. Here we are, the front of Paisley Park.
We're at Paisley Park for show.
So this is the only part of the tour that they let you film. This is his sound stage. So there you can see some of the musicology road cases. And this is where he used to hold big private parties. He would invite a lot of people, industry people as well as fans. And they actually filmed the interior scenes for Grumpy Old Men here. Now there you can see his new Power Generation costumes, or some of them. This is kind of a small collection they let you film and take pictures of. We saw some really great stuff throughout the tour though. I think it's pretty interesting that Prince always had stylists on hand to help him put together his ideas. So all of these were of course custom designed for him. That's also part of the new Power Generation stuff, I believe. And then Prince actually had a patent on those keyboards. He kind of helped create that keytar, that particular one. And there's his Emancipation hat. He was really unhappy with his record label and was writing Slave on his cheek and was doing an Emancipation album. And there you can see the hand-designed costume. He was a very, very small guy. I'm sure, as you can tell by looking. He was only, I think, 5'2½". Now check out some of this stuff. That is from that famous While My Guitar Gently Weeps performance. If you've never seen that, look it up on YouTube. It is phenomenal. Really cool to see his pinstripe suit there. And the hat. They only allow you to use your cell phone in this area, so take a look at those. They told us on the tour that many of the rooms in Paisley Park are still just full of his costumes, his clothing. There's his Grammy Award. One of, for musicology. And here we have the Third Eye era. You can see here on the shirt the glasses and the guitar. And then look how intricate those were. The costume is just... He was very unique. No question about it. As a performer, as an artist, as a musician, everything. And then here, you can see some of his old stage props. This is his road case, where he has some of his touring clothes. And you can see these are kind of older because these are back when he was using the original love symbol before he put some of the additions onto it. Then we read that his shoes were a woman's 5.5, the heels. There's that same jacket. Now this, we found out there were 3 Purple Rain motorcycles. This is one. We saw the other in the Purple Rain room that we couldn't film, but this one, I believe, was the stunt cycle because it's black and the other was purple. The other one, the seat was more purple and pink. So I think this is what they did. This is what the stuntman used for the overhead shots when he was driving through the forest on his way out to the Minnetonka scene. The Purify Yourself in Lake Minnetonka. There's Amy! Hi, Amy! There's Prince's purple grand piano. Not the one from Purple Rain, but we did see that in the Purple Rain room on this tour. Like I said, Prince used this soundstage for parties. He actually filmed most all of Graffiti Bridge here. So that's the exact stage, and this was the same room that he would have filmed that in. Still set up for performances. And you can see over here some of his couches and furniture once the light hits it. They show you some of the personal stuff. Now, sadly, they don't really leave you enough time in this section of the tour to read any of the placards. I was walking through to film everything to show you guys, and by the time I got done filming, they were yelling for us to move along to the next part of the tour. So if there were any stories to some of these things, I couldn't read it. Now that's just great. Isn't that cool? His microphone stand with the symbol. Now here, they said he had 14 cars in his downstairs garage. They have 2 of them on display. Here's his yellow BMW with some road cases beside it. Or it's like a gold. In person it was yellowish gold. And then Prince was always out riding his bicycle in his area. So there's his bicycle. Probably took it on tour. And look at that. Man, what a beauty. That is his Bentley. You can just see him behind that, can't you? And that's pretty much most everything that they have on display other than this wacky piano. Take a look at this guy. I've never seen anything quite like it. Isn't that incredible? As you can imagine, him being a piano player, guitar player, bass player, drummer, everything, he got a lot of gifts of music instruments over time. So now we're going to move along to the next room, which is straight ahead. That's pretty much where our tour wraps up, but they show us in there where, well, there's Amy and I partying before they move us along. They have a few more wardrobe pieces in here right as we end this part of the tour. And this room that we're moving into, that we now have moved into, where all of these are, by the way, look at all those different patterns. There's his shoes. Once we moved into this room, they show you a performance up on the screen of him performing in this room, and you can see those in the background. See, there's the stage, and then in the back, this is where we finished up our tour, and they let you hang out. Since we did the VIP tour, you actually get to sit on some of Prince's furniture in this room and in this room only. So this is kind of the VIP lounge area. There's Amy sitting on Prince's couch. And this is the Rainbow Children art that he has on display in there. And then this one, they put him creeping out. And then here is Prince performing on that same stage. You can see that horse I already showed you up on top and those light fixtures right over there. So I thought that was pretty cool. He was notorious for going to concerts of people that he enjoyed the music of, or just anywhere in town, and then inviting people back for after-hours parties, and he would perform all night long. So that's what that show was, and a lot of those would have happened right here. What did you see, what did you like that stands out in your mind, or what was your impression since you and I just a few weeks ago went to Graceland and saw another famous home of someone who... Now, the difference being that I forgot to mention that we found out inside that Prince actually wanted this to be a museum from the time he started eventually, where Graceland wasn't. What did you feel like when you walked into Paisley Park and took this tour?
It was more like studio. It wasn't homey. It was really cool though. Like lots of...
Like when you walked through, it kind of felt like offices, didn't it?
Yeah, it was very like businessy, business.
Now we got to go in Studio B, which he created a lot of his music. How did you feel in there they told us they had custom speakers created because he was blowing out speakers so often. What was it like listening to his music through his own speakers where he created it?
It was awesome. He had good sound. Prince is cool. He was cool. He was little.
Exactly. Now we saw some of his costumes. You even said you probably could wear his shoes. They were that small. He was 5'2".
Just by looking at him, his shoes looked like they would fit me.
Now what's cool is that we found out
Which
inside
is like a size 5.5 in women.
That
Or 6.
Prince early on hired a photographer and a costume designer that pretty much was with him constantly. They toured with him, did everything. So they told us rooms and rooms of this place are just filled with his old costumes, and we saw quite a bit of them. Pretty outlandish designs for some of the things that he wore, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was super cool.
They said that he was very micromanaging, so all the designs, when someone would send him what they were going to make a costume, he would want to alter it and make different things, different additions to it. Now we saw the Purple Rain Room. What did you like in the Purple Rain Room?
Everything.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
They had the original jacket. They had one of the 3 motorcycles. What else did they have? Yeah, your Kentucky Rain tribute shirt. So for me, what I really loved about this tour was that I didn't realize, I knew he could play tons of instruments, but I didn't realize that he made it a habit of recording as much as he could on his own. So, you know, we were standing in Studio A, which was like amazing. When we walk in there, they're like, Beck has recorded stuff in here, Miles Davis, Fine Young Cannibals recorded their album in there, Stevie Wonder, you know, people that Prince had influenced were making their records there. And you know, we're walking through there and I asked him, where would Prince have stood to record? And they say, in the control room. He did so much of it himself that he would just sit in the control room. So it's kind of cool to be in the control rooms, looking around, seeing, they literally had a photo of Prince sitting on a couch with like some like wall switches behind him, and we could actually see in the room that exact spot, and then look right beside it and see where he had been burning candles, and the candles had overflowed and burned into the carpet, and there was still candle wax on the carpet. So things like that were really great. They still had the incense that he was burning in his last session was half burned. I mean, we just saw so many cool things. You saw practice rooms. You heard about how he approached music, how he had no fears when it came to music. And then we got to go in the room that you guys saw of all those displays where his soundstage was, where they filmed the interiors of Grumpy Old Men. He would throw parties. Now Prince was also famous for creating groups. He created Morris Day and the Time, which gave us Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam. Also gave us Morris Day. Look at this. So at one time, like I mentioned, this was all covered when he first passed away with purple ribbons. Now the official memorial that everyone has is down here. And it's a big one. Take a look at all that. And then they have a little tunnel down there. We'll go check that out, a little graffiti bridge, if you will. Prince is a really interesting guy because he could play tons of instruments. His first recording, I mean, he was putting out at 19 and he was playing all the instruments on that, so. Blended funk and new wave and punk and rock. You can hear Hendrix all over his music, Santana. Prince Under the Cherry Moon, his movie, filmed in Eastern France. It's also cool when you take the tour, they take a photo of you inside of Studio B, and they have his purple piano in there and another grand piano with a hat sitting on top of the piano, and they say that hat is exactly where he left it when he passed away. And then I'm guessing those are all probably lyrics, that purple section. We got to see that guitar. His famous telly that he played While My Guitar Gently Weeps on. They had that on display. We saw his Batman Joker type costume that he wore. Look at that. There's the Cloud guitar. Someone made a memorial replica of the Cloud, which they have a replica here that he kept, because they said he had like 30 of them in different colors for whatever costume he was going to wear. Had them custom made, and actually had found an old bass that had that design, bought the bass and had guitar companies manufacture those guitars. But the one they have here, they said he had here, played here, but it wasn't the one from Purple Rain, because the original white one from Purple Rain is in the Smithsonian. And there's the third eye. We saw those glasses. They had those on display inside there.
For the Rainbow Children.
Now, are these lyrics? What is all this?
Yeah. Song titles, I think.
That's what I thought. I figured from up there. Very great memorial. I mean, you're seeing pictures on this memorial wall of Prince that I had never seen before. And like I mentioned earlier, he had a photographer that traveled with him pretty much all the time for most of his career. So there were always documentation of his different looks, his different costumes. People visiting from Brisbane. Take a look. Tons of drawings too. You gotta love that. One of the clips they show you in here on the tour of Prince is him saying that he's intimidated by nothing, and that he loved being inspired, never was feared or never was afraid of anything, always used that as an inspiration. So it's really cool to see how many artists come out here and made that amazing guitar tribute. And of course, that was his name at one point. He did a whole emancipation thing where he was writing slave on his cheek, and he felt that his record company was enslaving him, so he changed his name to that symbol for a while. And it just keeps going. The Rainbow Children. And then it continues up here. But then look. The Rainbow Children. The Riley Creek Bridge. Prince Rogers Nelson. If you don't know how he got that name, that was his father and his mother's group. It was the Prince Rogers Trio. And his father wanted him to, he thought if he named him that Prince's dreams would come true. Or the dreams that his father had would come true for Prince. But what's interesting is I read that he had a nickname growing up because he didn't really like the name Prince. His nickname was Skipper. Purple kisses for Prince, and then Amy said I missed something. What did I miss, Amy? Oh, wow! Good call. That's incredible. No, I didn't see that. That's so great. And then check out what I found down here. Isn't that fantastic? Look at that. Plus that, the eyes. And take a look at this on the other side, the bridge has, and in fact, he did have pet doves in cages up there that you get to see. And look, they have all this purple little streamer hanging down. Purify yourself in Lake Minnetonka. And then, of course, that's not Lake Minnetonka. Great tributes out here. And one of my favorite things that they told us inside was that, believe it or not, they said they've had it confirmed by a couple people that Prince did in fact have a swear jar inside Paisley Park. So if you were a guest and you swore, you had to put money in there, and Questlove was here. And he said, "Prince, you're the one that taught me how to cuss." See what's down here at the end. Amy and I were just sitting here talking about how Prince was kind of notorious for riding his bike in this area, and this being right in front of his house really looks a lot like a bike path, so you could really kind of envision Prince riding his bike through here. Well, my friends, we're gonna call it a day. For me, I mean, it was a pretty interesting experience. I have always been fascinated by elusive people and getting to see inside of Prince's home, and knowing that he created it with the intentions of it someday being a museum. It was just kind of a different experience than anything I've ever seen before. Highly recommend it. We did the full-on all-access tour, or as much as you get to see, and it was a pretty great experience, but it was $160. So Amy, did you have fun?
Super fun.
Thank you everyone for watching. We're gonna call it a day. Have a great night, everyone. Party like it's 1999. Goodbye.